We just had Eli Tomac on, obviously, as you heard. I guess let's just roll before we talk to MXDN. Let's roll into that topic that Adam was bringing up: track prep, track dirt, and all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of it's related to the line, but maybe not. Coop, what's your thoughts on track prep for Supercross?
I don't know, man. It's it's a thing that we could sit here and talk for the next hour about. I think like they were kind of saying I would agree with like the finishing side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like when we walk the track, first thing in the morning, it's like the berms aren't quite finished. It's chunky. It's not packed in. But yeah, that's kind of always been a strange one for me. But then, yeah, I think my opinion on things is like the layouts and the prep and all that, like things are just getting like easier, if that makes sense. Like it's the same obstacles every weekend. It's, a triple, it's
3-5-3
section.
Yeah.
The rhythms are pretty much the same. And, there's not really anything new or exciting. And even, the bowl turns, I feel like there was a lot less bowl turns this year, which to me in Supercross, that's all you should have. But as far as track prep and all that, like being able to move around, I mean, I'm a big fan of ruts, clearly.
But you're nasty in ruts, dude.
I do agree with it. Like for racing purposes, I think, I don't know, I'm a big fan of like every event that we go to should be prepped like for that certain dirt to be the best, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So like if you go to an East Coast, you want in that, or like an Indy, it's going to be ruddy as crap. Like you want to do everything you can to make it dry as possible. Or if you go to a Phoenix, hey, let it get blue grooved and nasty. Like just let every venue kind of be their own.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I think it's more to me, it's the layouts are becoming a lot easier. And then another thing I think, like just personally, is all the insight we have with as far as lines and racing. By the time we're done with free practice, we already know the fastest line around the track for the rest of the day, which is great, but then takes away from racing, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Dartfish. Thanks for that. And yeah, why are there 3 practices? Like I hope we just go to 2 next year. I heard we were. We're back to 9 whoops again. That sucks. Can we put 10 in?
I talked to Prater about
it. 10.
I know.
I'd like 10.
Right. So we can stop the 3-3-3 stuff, It
was great for me. I loved it.
I won a lot of races going 3-3-3.
No, you did. Yeah.
But you did the thing, like you're great at doing where a lot of the times I remember San Diego 2020, I think you passed me with like 3 laps to go, but you do a thing where you kind of skim, kind of like Marvin did. You kind of skim off the first whoop that gets like the tallest one, which that's really difficult to do. I think sometimes people think that jumping whoops is, I don't know, it's like a sissy thing to do because people like to skim the whoops, right? But it's to jump the whoops the way Coop jumps the whoops is gnarly.
Yeah, you gotta. It takes skill, no doubt.
I
think some of it's lime, and I do think the creativity, like you said, Coop. Like sometimes you're just like, hey, that's the same lane we had 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just like, come on. I don't know, man. I'm not a track guy.
And I think even going on that tangent, like to me, I hate sand and Supercross, but I also hate it for the reason of what you just said of like, there literally is one line in the sand. And if you get too close to the rider in front of you, you just get blasted. So, that's one of the things that I know sand has been like a big thing lately. And that's my, like, I just think that's stupid in Supercross. Like, I get it every once in a while, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
What did Prater say about the whoops in your pod, Adam?
He said that they had data that suggested that most guys that crashed was right around that 9 or 10 spot.
Yeah.
Like with 9 whoops, you can pretty much, if you have really good body position, you can pretty much just get through
Ride
the
it
end.
out.
Like, yeah, most of the time.
It's like my old mechanic Carlos used to say, by the time you get in trouble, you're out of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe.
Supercross is tough. Let's
get to this guy's miraculous 250.
Yes.
Performance.
Good, Coop. You got better every time you rode the bike. If there was another moto, I think you would have done even better. I heard you were pretty pissed after qualifying on Saturday. I heard some from Team USA guys. You were not stoked. You're riding it. Still not riding it like you should, and you got better every time out, man. So, like, congratulations, way to take it for the team, and I think you stepped up. Are you happy? You didn't win the event, your class or the overall, but man, I don't know. I think it's all good.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, I mean Saturday was it was not great. I was definitely tight and just riding like a vagine, but at the same time, that was one of the gnarliest tracks I've ever ridden, and that's what I also was trying to explain to the boys when they were kind of harping on me. Like they're like, "Oh, you look scared." I'm like, I am.
Yeah, I am, bro.
I'm scared.
Hey, you take the bike. Go do a lap.
But no, I mean overall it was a great experience. You know, I think from the beginning, like, you know, in all reality, like I shouldn't have even been there. So with how it went, and you know the last minute, and you know coming down to Vegas, and Eli making a decision to go, and just how it all transpired. If you would have told us we would have got P2 on the day, I personally would have been like over the moon.
Yep.
I thought a podium would have been unbelievable. But going into the last moto with like life of a win possible, to get second was a little bit of a, I shouldn't even say a bummer, because it was still an amazing day for everyone, but it was just like, damn, you know, you start thinking of just like those 3 points. You're like, frick, if, you know, each one of us or one, if I would have gotten 2 spots better or whatever the case is. So, but with that being said, I felt like, you know, first moto, I definitely didn't do very good. I had bad start and goggle issues, and, you know, so the second moto I really had to step up and knew I had to try to, that was our goal, was to put a single digit on the board. And it wasn't going to be easy because I was going to be outside both times, but that was my choice. I felt like I was the weak link, so I wanted to let those guys try to put the lowest score. And like I told them, I said I need to step up at least one moto, and I felt like I did that in the second one. You know, I made some good passes and was able to, like I said, put a single score up. So, but yeah, overall it was really awesome. Just the event, like, there's nothing like it. You know, everyone always says that, but there truly isn't. The pressure, the fans, the track, like racing every badass motocross rider, you know, from 18-year-olds to 32-year-olds, like everyone's there. So it's just a crazy event. You know, you work as a team. Like it truly was like a super sick weekend. And yeah, I think, like I said, to walk away with a P2, I think we surprised and shut up a lot of people. Maybe even you, Steve. I don't know.
Love it.
No, yeah, I put you guys, I'm like, hey, they can get on the podium, you know, with a few breaks.
Hey, America.
And you guys didn't get breaks. You just rode your asses to second. You know what I mean? Like it.
No, and that's, I mean, that's what I'm still like, Eli was insane. Like, I'm still mind blown. Like, I mean, you know how good he can be and how good he is, but for him to show up and do what he did, like not racing all summer, not racing the last really 2 summers, and like it was really impressive, I thought. And especially the last moto, like we were talking about just like the gate choice and this and that, and like he was stressed, and like I had to tell him, like, hey dude, like it don't matter, like, you know, whatever happens, like you can go outside, put AP inside, like do whatever you want to do. And then like for him to go and pull freaking 6 start whole shot like that, like I don't know, that was just like a badass thing to do.
And it's even cooler because that's not really Eli's specialty.
No, exactly.
He pulled it out with his back against the wall.
Which literally next to Prado, you know, like how many guys have even outstarted that guy? Like it was insane.
Prado got the whole shot from the outside in Moto 1. Like what the, you know, like the dude's just phenomenal. I'm with you guys. It's even better that, hey, Eli, we need this. Let's do it. And he does it.
Coop, I rode I've only ridden a couple times since Salt Lake, and both have been on a 250. At my first day at Fox Raceway, I think I stalled it 4 or 5 times. What was the hardest part? And did it take you by surprise? Did you think it was going to be easier than it was, or did it? You know, what took you by surprise the most? What was hardest to get used to?
I think the shifting, like you said, stalling it. You know, like you just shift the thing a lot. But it was hard to say because it's one of those things like when I got on it right away, the Star bike clearly is fast. So like power really wasn't an issue. It was more just learning to rev it out again. Like
Yep.
At least the Yamaha, it makes better power actually on the higher side of the revs. Like it keeps going to where I was trying to like short shift it and, ride it like a 450 and it sounded good, but it wasn't really working, like you should. So I think that was the biggest thing was getting the gears and like the rev limiter and then just remembering that you, like, as soon as you let off the gas, you're coming to a stop, if that makes sense. Like, the momentum that you have to carry is twice as much than a 450, just the engine braking, how the inertia on the 450 will keep going forward. Like, the 250 just stops, if that makes sense. So, having to, brake later than normal, get on the gas way earlier than normal, stay on the gas, kind of ride the clutch a little bit. Like, you really just have to ride the crap out of it. And I felt really good heading into England. Like, we rode 4 times, and I had, like, I'd say by the end of day 2, I felt really good.
That's crazy.
But it's like same thing as I always say. It's at the farm where it's thick dirt. I know the track. Like, everything feels perfect. And then we showed up to England, and I couldn't even, like, ride the thing how I was at all because it was just so technical, so gnarly, so, like, just absolutely brutal that you had to ride it totally different. So I think that was the toughest thing was actually getting to England and getting back on it in those conditions and, like, oh, shit, this is gnarly. Everyone, I think, was struggling with the conditions on Saturday, and me still kind of learning the bike and learning how to ride it and trying to go fast. And then, you at least for me, I've never raced any of those guys.
Yeah.
So the style's a lot different. As I see it every weekend, but like the 250 class, like there's no regret for anything. So
no.
Everybody's
like,
Hampshire.
First lap was just like, it was intense, so it was just a lot of different style of racing, and like I said, when you kind of get lackadaisical, it really catches up to you. So I think that was the hardest thing. And then Sunday, I guess I didn't realize how you were pretty underpowered. Like, I would try to make some passes that I felt like were going to be a pretty easy pass, and then, like, that 450 just hit, and you're like, damn, like, you really had to charge on the outside or like really almost push your limits to make a pass. So just stuff like that. But overall it was super fun to ride. Like, I felt like I learned a lot and kind of got like a little bit of like confidence back of like, man, you can ride the crap out of a dirt bike and I can still scrub, underneath and do these things. And that sometimes the 450 like is just too gnarly to be able to throw around like that, if that kind of makes sense.
Talking about your second moto and all the things that you learned and all the things you had to adjust to, do you feel like your second moto was like a perfect way to ride the bike, or were you still making some mistakes in the second moto where you're like, don't stop it, I gotta swing wider there or keep momentum up more? Or do you feel like your second moto was like, hey, now I'm good, or this is the way you should ride?
I think second moto was a much better moto, and I actually like got better every lap. And I think that was the thing, right? Like, I told those guys straight up, I'm like, man, that first one, like I said, I was about 11th or 12th, and then I had some goggle issues that, like, we all did, like I was a dumbass and I ran tear-offs in the first one and ran out and just strictly didn't have vision. So I was kind of, at a point where you're just trusting yourself to jump the jumps and the lines that you knew, and I was just kind of staying in there to where the second one, in my mind, I was like, okay, the 17 is hopefully our throwaway, so, like, I need to make it happen this time. And so, yeah, I felt like I rode it a lot harder. I was taking a lot more chances. I think that was the biggest thing was, like, on a track like that, it was hard to tell yourself to just, like, send it because there was consequences, obviously. So for me, I think it was just like I started taking a bit more risk, and it was working. Like I could carry more momentum that way, and if I ripped my foot off the peg in a turn or something, like who cares? So that's kind of how I approached the second moto, and then I feel like I started getting better, and I rode behind like some of the other 250 guys. Like I actually passed Biao, and like I passed Adamo and some of those guys. So like just riding around other 250s, I kind of learned as I went, and that was it was just I thought it was a good ride. Like I truly felt like I came through well, and I had a good start from the outside, which was awesome. But I felt like if I could have had how I rode that second moto, if I would have had the inside gate, I think we could have put ourselves in even a better spot. But looking back, I mean, that was the decision we made, and I think it was still the right one.
702-586-PULP. You got a question for Cooper Webb here on the Pulp Mech Show. Brought to you by the folks at OGIO Power Sports. Pulp 15 is a code to save with OGIO, whether it's backpacks, gear bags, the laptop bags, whatever it is. OGIO Power Sports will have you covered. And, if you're going back to school, you got a lot of stuff there for OGIO. OGIO Power Sports. Check them out. Pulp 15 is a code to save.
Coop, what was the base setup you started with? Did you start from scratch, or did you pick somebody else's?
No, Deeks.
Yeah?
Yeah, Deeks, bro.
Really?
Well, I mean, that was another thing, right? Like, had I been able to, have 2 months to get ready, I think we could have been in a much better spot, like setup-wise, for at least myself. But that was another thing. Like, we were racing against time, so I literally just said, hey, give me the bike that's winning races, and I'll figure it out, Yeah. So, which was actually, like I said, it was kind of just Hayden's setup. And then when we got to England, we made some changes. Like, we made a pretty big shock change after the first day. That was a lot better. But, yeah, I mean, it would have been, I think, it was still a good setup, but it'd be really cool to like have an actual test and, set it up how maybe I would have liked certain things. Like Hayden's bike setup was good, but as you know, like every rider's a little bit different. So,
right.
But with that being said, that was the easiest thing for me. Like, hey, he gets good starts. He obviously clearly is a great rider, but
won the national championship. So
yeah,
decent.
Exactly. Like just give me that. And so that was the setup.
How was the after party? Did we hit it, or did we keep it?
No,
keep
man,
it light.
I'm old man now.
Yeah.
We took it back to London. We had a flight out. Just full boring dad now, man.
Alpine Stars does a good job after the race for everybody. They have hospitality.
Yeah, it was. We did a nice dinner, and my favorite thing is kind of talking to all the Euros. So like. That was cool. After the race, I got to speak to Jeffrey for a while, talk to Stewart for a while, ran into Tony. Like, I like just talking to those guys and, learning from them. And that was one thing. Like, when I did the Nations in 2015 and 2016, that Gareth Swanepoel, who's my trainer now, but was also back then, he's like, hey, one thing you need to remember is, like, the Euros don't really like the U.S. He's like, they do, but they don't. So like when you guys come over here for Nations, you're a little bit, you travel in bunches and like So I don't know how to explain it, but like they kind of their goal is to obviously beat the U.S. He's like, so my advice for you is to go talk to these guys. That way they don't race you super super hard. And I did that my first year at the Nations, and so I got to meet like 10 or 12 of the guys at the time, and then so going back 8 years later or whatever it was cool to kind of connect with everybody again and see everybody and talk to them. And like you said, Alpine Stars, they do an unreal job with the food and the hangout and everything like that. So that was a cool thing afterwards, is hanging out with everybody and still enjoying a podium. Like I said, I think the last time I went there, it was a heartbreak, and I left there like in shambles, to where I told myself this time, like, once you're on the podium, like, it's still a huge deal, to get second place. So enjoy it and don't be so miserable this time.
Well, I mean, the last time, Well, no, the last time was that Erne or Majora? Which one was last?
Majora.
Erne second, third was Majora, but that was the one I had to tip
Yeah,
over.
Majora was a tough one for you for sure.
That was just a weird spot to crash. Yeah.
The Euro riders, in my opinion, though, they like everyone I've talked to, and I'm buddies with a bunch of them. They watch all the Supercrosses, most of the motocrosses. I mean, they are deep fans. These guys, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think in general, Coop, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think in knowing some people across the pond, I think the general consensus about Americans is just that we think America is all there is, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just,
for sure.
Yeah, they just think we're a bit stupid and corny.
Yeah, and that was maybe what I meant. Like, obviously, like you said, Steve, I think there is a tremendous amount of respect between the two. And like you said, we watch GPs a lot more now than I think maybe ever before, and vice versa. Like, obviously, with the TV packs and stuff, I think they have a lot more access. But I still think at the end of the day, the Euros show up to nations wanting to beat the Americans and the U.S. riders and vice versa. You know, that's no secret there. So I guess that's more what I meant was like, you know, they're going to race the Americans hard, in my opinion, and vice versa. You know, we don't want to, you know, especially if not in my case this year, but if I'm a, you know, champion of the series and I go to nations, like I want to show that, hey, I'm the best in the class or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I think DeWolf and Koonin were very motivated to be the best MX2 dudes. You know what I mean? Like, they were very much into it. And also, when the Motocross of Nations happens, and I'm old enough to remember this, and America doesn't send a team, it's not the same. It's not the same.
You're not old enough. You're just old.
You know? What?
You're just old.
Yeah, I'm just old.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I think that's true. Like, to me, I mean, obviously Australia now has 2 U.S. guys, essentially. But, like, without us there, it's just another GP.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Well, and Canada. Don't forget about Canada.
Yeah.
We had a rough Nations. Again.
Hey, man.
You were in, though.
We were in the A final. We were in the A final. We got a question here from Nash, our resident Phil Nicoletti superfan. What's up, Nash?
Gentlemen.
How are you?
Awesome. Love it. So much joy for what those guys did, and really, Coop and you and everybody on the team, AP and Tomac. Wow. One word. I speak for many people that were proud of you guys, and you know, you guys did a hell of a job, and you put your heart and soul into it, obviously, as you disclosed. But you know, you've been transparent and talked about the setup and everything. The real question is, how did Phil play into the success of the event? Was he in your ear on the start? Was he line selections? I mean, only as Phil can. Take us through.
Hold on, before you answer, Coop. Both Phil and Seth were like, we just told him, man, he's got to figure it out. He's got to go faster. What the fuck's he doing out there? This is Saturday. And I'm just like, you guys sound like you're not helping Cooper Webb out at all, Seth and Phil. That was my rise.
No.
Yeah.
Seth was good.
Okay.
But I mean, Seth, he's, you know, one of my best friends. So, like, we have that relationship. And I was one of the guys that pushed for him to be there because the dartfish, you know, that's him. Like, he's very good at that, and I trust what he says and the knowledge he brings. Phil was literally in charge of bringing me a snack that he stole from somebody, don't know where, and that's really it. He came in to annoy us.
Yeah, was he bringing it down with negativity?
No.
Okay.
He's always positive around me, like in a weird way. I swear, now that he's not racing, it's the most positive I've ever seen him.
Well,
was he playing start line, please?
He did come to me Saturday after practice, and he just started laughing, like in my face. And I'm like, what's funny? He's like, dude, you look like a squirrel dick out there. I'm like,
thanks,
yeah,
Phil.
yeah, I know. And I was like, well, what's funny is, like, I would love to see you out there. Like, imagine I'm making it look this bad. Imagine you know?
Right.
But no, he was good.
Okay.
Phil was good. I thought he would be a little bit more, like, there for, you know, just the show and clout, and which he was. You know, I've seen him up on the stage and drinking beer.
Yep.
But he was Team USA. I will give it to him.
Yeah.
I thought he would be a third Canada, a third Australia, and a third Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was 50% Team USA, I will say.
And 50% Canada?
Yeah, I'd say 45% Canada.
Sure, 5% Aussie. Yeah, that probably makes about right. Yeah, we had him on our live show Saturday night, and he was swearing. We were told to keep the swearing down, and we didn't pass it on. We didn't tell Phil that, and then he swore like a drunken sailor up there, and I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Because it's like an
I
MXGP
don't think
show.
he spent one day sober.
Yeah.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah, that was probably true. I know, and he told me, he was like, dude, I was talking to Tomac. I was talking, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't even imagine how that went. Like,
Yeah. No, he was. He was.
Okay.
He was trying to get the boys fired up, but like, I told him, I'm like, dude, you can't. You're like the typical American that comes over here on race day for Team USA, trying to be a hero. Like, let us do our thing, bro.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Listen, you're not on the.
He was good. I'm joking about that,
Yeah.
but he was good. Like he was involved in watching and just if he saw something or whatever.
Sure.
More with me. Obviously, we have that relationship. I think he knows AP as well, but he wasn't as tough as he portrays. That's for sure.
AP kept the vibes high, kept everybody loose.
Yeah. No, honestly, vibes were good.
Yep.
Like I'm teammates with Eli, so like we've gotten to know each other, just from being teammates now. But I was pleasantly surprised. I thought we all really got along well. I did like having like our cubicle that we had this year. We all rode to the track together. We rode from the track together. We all had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Like,
nice.
It was actually a really good vibe. Obviously, me and AP are boys and have been, but it was cool. I think we were all in pretty good moods. Like none of us were taking it too serious. Even Eli, like I was stoked on how he was, and we were all able to just kind of, tell stories and joke around. And then when it was time to get serious, like we got serious.
Yep.
But yeah, I think me and Eli are the same way as far as like, when it's race day with media or fans, we're pretty head down to where the Cowboy was signing every fan hat that was there. So
yeah.
I do think it was a good vibe though. All three of us got along really well. I thought even within the Yamaha and the KTM crew and stuff, like I got to reunite with Carlos, and that was super fun. And he was helping me, we would help them, and man, that's another great thing about the event, right? Is like everyone puts the egos aside, and it's like, how do we get this done? And no matter what color bike you're on or who's paying you, like everyone has a common goal. So yeah, I thought it was a great week, and I think we all bonded really well, and that's all you can ask for,
And let's not forget, you gave up a vacation, which I'm sure made your wife super stoked. You gave up a nice vacation to go and battle in the ruts and the mud.
Yep, I did.
Yep.
But it was worth it. No, like I said, it was a really good trip. The weather, considering, was still really good. Like race day was rainy and misty, but I was kind of expecting a full mudder. So, I was stoked. Like I said, it's been a long 8 years of not racing the event, and I think about it all the time, So for me, just to experience it again and be a part of it, and just the absolute pressure of that event, like me personally, I love it. But and it's not for everyone. And going into that last moto, like you could feel it for those two boys, like it was real. So
Need the dog.
Like I said,
Need the dog. You got the dog.
Yeah, he does. Nash, thanks for the call. Thank you, Nash.
Hey, great job, guys. Cheers.
Thanks. So everything was great. I just got one complaint, Coop. I got one complaint, and this was.
Well, there's always a complaint. I could complain too, but
yeah. This was going to be my race tech rant later on in the show, but
nice.
So you're going to rant about Canada
now?
No, I'm not going to rant about Canada. And you're a Motocross to Nations veteran. You've stood on the podium before. I don't know if nobody told you. I don't know if you didn't think about it. I don't know where the miscommunication happened here, but you got to leave the gear on for the podium. You can't go in jeans.
I didn't know.
Webster did it too. Webster's up there in jeans. I know you're done your moto. You got about an hour, to chill, but the photos look better when you're in your dirty gear with your two teammates that raced, and Jake went up there, Weimer went up there in jeans. I still give him shit.
I remember that. 09.
Yep. And so my only complaint is you should have put the gear back on.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's fine.
I didn't know.
Webster
I
did the
didn't
same
know.
thing. Kyle Webster did the same thing. So
It was my first time as a 250 rider, believe it or not.
yeah, you know what? Good point. Right. You never had that break before. Sure.
No.
Because you stepped up for the 450 in Ernay, and yeah.
And, like, dude, we were going in with, like, a 5-way tie. Like, nothing's guaranteed, man.
Yeah, but you got to think to yourself. You got to be like, hey, I'm going to take my braces off and then, just put my pants back. Like, it's Seth's fault or Paul's fault. It's
Phil's fault.
Phil's fault. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil and Seth's
Yeah.
fault. I
Phil
like
and Seth's
that.
fault. Like, someone needs to be like, hey, Coop, for the podium, why don't you put your gear back on or keep the gear on or however that works.
I feel like you're
Well, to be
nitpicking.
fair, I'm glad I even made it to the podium because I was in the trenches waving my towel every lap.
Okay.
And I had to climb like 3 fences just to get to the podium because they weren't going to let me down there.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, no, like I'm
on the
You're right. If I would have had my gear, I would have probably slid right in.
See? Yep.
But they thought I was like trying to sneak up there, so you got a point.
What was the shoe game like? Were you wearing slides or something?
No, full Brooks dad spec.
Love it.
Comfort.
Yes.
Comfort.
And again, you're second, so you're not in the center, but
Oh boy.
yeah, just Kyle Webster's got jeans on. It's like, Kyle.
The Aussies go to the grocery store without shoes on, though, so it's
Yeah, I guess. I just, I don't know. That's it. That's my only complaint. And longtime listeners of my show will know that I still give Weimer. He's got a shirt tucked in with jeans with Dungeon Tedesco
I
on
got
the
a
podium.
complaint about
Okay.
podium,
Fuck
too.
'em.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get a team second place trophy. I think it'd be cool to take home, like, our own little trophies.
You mean they're charging people $45 to watch this fucking race? They can't buy a trophy?
For anybody, for everybody.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
At least a plaque would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Really.
Something
Yeah,
or
We
maybe-
did get medals,
yeah,
which is cool,
or
but
maybe,
like
Oh,
a
just
Polaroid.
something to take home.
we got a medal.
It's not the vet
You got the-
designations for fuck's sake.
got
The
the-
fact that that's the same award is
At least
is
there's
problem.
bonus money.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of prize money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, listen, man, good job, great work. I think that I tweeted this, I said it when you agreed to it. You could have said no, and no one would have said anything, and everyone would have understood. And instead, you took the hard route and did this, man, and you got you second place. And you have so much goodwill with the American motocross fans right now for what you did. It's great.
No, I
So,
appreciate it.
yeah.
No, I appreciate it. And it's, like you said, it was. I'm stoked. Like when I look at it as a whole, it was a great weekend. It was fun. We raced hard. We did a great job. We got second. We were, a handful of points out from winning, and yeah, I mean, just with like you said,
Yeah.
with everything 4 days, and it's been. Of course, Seth reminded me that it was only my second outdoor of the year, and I'm like, oh,
Okay.
sick.
Coop,
Yeah.
I got a question
And-
for you. Why do we think why to the public eye, why does it seem like Nations is becoming less of a big deal? Like why do you think that is?
I think it's bullshit, is what I think. Not
Love
the
it.
event, sorry.
No, I
People
get it.
Don't take it for what it is. But I think, unfortunately, money. There's a lot of little stuff that I would change about it. Like I do think, like I said, I got my travel covered, which is great, but that's what I got for this event. And the weekend before, for getting fifth place in a series, I got $150,000. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the end of the day, it's money, right? Like that's, I think, why it's not important. I think there's a lot of risk. Like if we were to go there and say I got seriously injured, then
Yeah.
my whole next year is seriously upset because of the timeline of it being October. But I think it's also like if you've never done it and you've never been there, and especially in Europe, like the nations in the U.S. are great, but like Europe is a whole nother level. I just don't think people, and maybe the newer riders or the younger riders, truly understand how incredible the experience is.
Yeah.
Like I've had, I've been racing for however long now, and all three nations are probably 1, 2, 3 on my list of like races that meant the most, or that I think about, or like the feeling. Like there's just nothing like the sight lap, for example. You can't see the track because there's fucking smoke everywhere. Like you can't see a line on the track from the fans. I battled Muse for 3 laps, and I could not hear my dirt bike for 3 laps.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you can't even put it into words. So but yeah, I think that's the big problem. And then it costs the teams money, with staff and shipping. Like it's not easy. I guess the ROI on it from a business standpoint is shit.
Yeah, it's a passion project.
The ROI from Infront is great.
It's a passion project.
The ROI on Infront is amazing.
But you would say, Coop, obviously it's hard if you're not a rider to really understand because people just say, okay, one extra race, not too big of a deal. Season's getting a bit longer. But you say every time you've gone, no matter how you did, you still think that it's been worth it. Like you still leave the experience
100%.
And you're stoked on it.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, and I think it's one of those things that, in 2015 and 2016, I did it and I loved it and everything was great, but I didn't respect it or understand how important it was for a few years after, of not getting selected or not going or not being a part of it. And then you go like, man, that is a pretty special experience. And then I do think even back then, it was truly the best 3 riders in America, which I'm grateful as heck to be on the team this year, but I wasn't top 3 best riders in America, So I think that was the other special thing, was the 2 times I did it. Like, we sent our top of the list guys, and so yeah, like you said, I mean, it's like the Olympics, right? Like those athletes don't get paid any more or any less to go do the Olympics, but it's still the biggest sporting event in the world,
Yeah, but the guys in the Olympics are amateurs technically. You guys are professionals, and there should be Infront is making a lot of money from this race. Having said that, thank you Infront for letting me do 2 live shows. But being fair criticism here, they should pay back some. They are making a lot of money on that race every single year, and they're relying on the flag and patriotism to make these dudes feel guilty when they can afford to pay something. I really feel that way.
Like, I'm sure there's a bunch of politics that I don't know of, you know, so I don't want to talk too much on it, but I agree. I mean, it's at least a purse or
something
to some degree, a show-up fee or, something or help with travel or whatever the case is. I mean, that's what's hard, right? Because I heard you talking about when I got on the show, you were talking with Eli about the extra races. It's like, man, speaking of these one-off races or Paris or Oz or whatever they are, the difference there is we're getting treated like superheroes. We're getting flown, lay down beds. We're getting paid a heck of a lot of money. When we get there, we're in a suite. We're getting tour guided all over the town, whatever we want, 5-star meal. Like, that's what makes that different than race 27 on the schedule. And then secondly, of like, yes, getting back to the point of us going to England, like to race for MXON, I'm going to go back to Paris in a month, and like the difference between the two, as far as like the experiences is crazy, as far as like getting paid for it, for the one night of racing or whatever it is. Like it's just totally different. I mean, and those promoters are great people and great promoters, and I don't think they're getting paid as much as I would think a MXON is, from a crowd standpoint or anything like that. So, like you said, I think there's a lot of politics. I'm sure little things behind it or whatever the case is. But with my point of that, like the original question of the younger guys or the guys that maybe haven't been there or really understand it, you're not going to get them there by giving them like a pep rally. You're going to have to figure something out to get these guys there for sure.
Yeah, no, it was well said. I agree with that. And the Feld guys are, like we said, the Feld guys are like, well, they're going to Paris and World Supercross. I'm like, it's not the same, man.
I guess it just comes down to how much patriotism matters. And if you have the experience of the race and knowing how fulfilling and meaningful that experience is, how much is patriotism worth potentially a big sidestep in your career, get hurt?
I mean, Grant Harlan went last year for Guam.
Yeah.
0 chance of doing anything, maybe making the A-main. He hits a down rider, no fault of his own. Pelvis. He's in the hospital for weeks in Paris. Fucks up his Supercross season. He doesn't start feeling good until halfway through the Supercross season for really nothing. And you're like, okay, so that's why even like with Deegs, I didn't like how Deegs didn't tell the truth, that he just didn't want to go. But having said that, I'll never criticize the guy for not going. I get it, man, for all the reasons we just laid out.
Yeah, you've always been pretty reasonable with that.
Yeah, you don't want to go. It's taken away from testing. It's no money. It's taken away from your recovery time. I have no problem with people not going.
Yeah, I think you can protect yourself, make the decision that's in your best interest, and still love your country.
Yes.
I can say that.
Yes.
The extremist thinking is that it's one or the other.
Yeah, no.
And that's just
not
not
like
true.
Coop raises his hand and be like, ride 2 for the F?
I'm in. Which is great, too.
Great.
Like,
yes.
I, as a motocross fan myself, I mean, it's meaningful.
And Coop will benefit from this for goodwill from the fans down the road, which is also awesome.
And you'll thank yourself for it in 10 years.
No, for sure. And I think, I look at it, like I said, I think if you were to go down a line of past champions or guys that have won championships and also done nations, and you go from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, you ask them top 3, and I would say 90% of them would say nations is top of that list, or top 3 on their list of achievements. And that's what I'm saying is I think, like I said, now that I'm a dad and getting older, and, those are the things, like, I can't wait to look back on. And, like, even this weekend, I literally raced the Wolf, Coonan, Adamo, Jeffrey Hurlings, Tim Geiser, Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, Max Nigel,
Dylan Wright,
Ken Roxon, Dylan Wright. Like, the amount of lists, you could write a freaking book on each one of those riders' careers, and I was on the same gate as them on a 250 at 28 years old, and like it's crazy to think. It really is. And so I think that's the other part of it, is going like, man, I'm actually racing the best guys in the world too. That's another huge thing that I think if you can be successful at the event, and especially even if it's in your own class, like, then that truly means something as well.
That's awesome that you have that appreciation, for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially somebody that's you don't normally get that mentality once you've really you're an elite guy, right?
Yeah,
and you've won titles.
2 titles and all the things that Coop's done. All right, man. Hey, thanks, Coop, for joining us. I know it's late there. I really appreciate the late notice, too, and coming on.
And shout out Team Canada. Courtney, Lloyd, dialed us all weekend as well.
Oh, nice.
So,
I didn't know this.
job.
Oh, okay. So, well, look at that. Shout out Courtney Lloyd, then, for helping out Team USA, too. Thanks. Good job. Thank you for this. I'll see you in Paris.
Yep. See you there, mate.
All right. Thanks, Coop.
CAC.
Nice work.
All right. See you. That's Cooper Webb, everybody. Brought to you by OGO Power Sports. All right. Commercial break here on the show. Will Hahn's coming up. Jason Thomas coming up. We're going to finish your race tech rant. We're going to get into salaries.